The clutch, the poise, and the maturity of the Oklahoma City Thunder just keeps getting better, with their latest outing displaying more grit and more resiliency. Fresh off of turning a shaky start in the Western Conference Finals into a statement blowout, we're going to get into how the Oklahoma City Thunder continue to grow right before our very eyes. But before we get deep into it, I just want to say what's going on, guys. This is Gabriel Ebersole here with Thunder Digest. And I just want to point out that 68% of you guys watching are not subscribed to this channel. The Thunder, 7 wins away from the first ring in franchise history. And we want to be up to date with you guys on all the news, games, scores, rumors, everything to do with the Thunder until then and beyond. So make sure you're subscribed so you can stay up to date with that. But without further ado, let's get into game one and the resiliency shown by this Thunder team, right? We see this final scoreboard, beautiful looking 114 to 88 point win. You would think that this was the Thunder's standard, go in there and really just do your work, dominate, get out really before the fourth quarter even is halfway over, and just check into that first game of the series. But that was not the case. The Timberwolves really opened up this game strong. They took an 8-0 run in the first minute of the game, which really put the backs of the Thunder against the wall. And at the end of the first quarter, they held a 3-point lead, 23 to 20. Let's take a look at how some of that stuff went down. We're going to look at this first quarter stats up here, right? And the first thing we see, 12 minutes played by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's shooting 2 for 8. 5 for 7 from the free throw line. He was able to get some points down there to get some rhythm and keep the OKC in it a little bit, but he struggled mightily early to get his shot to fall. He was getting some of the looks he was normally getting. I would say that they were getting him a little bit off his spots to normal, but most of the time he was getting some decent looks and they just were not dropping for him. And this put our team behind the 8 ball early into the game, especially. But we were starting to creep back towards the end of that quarter, and we took a 3 point deficit into the next. That's what we said. However, we're going to take one step forward into the halftime of SGA, where he still has not picked this up. He's shooting, he has 11 points. He's continuing to get to the line a little bit to get some rhythm, but he's shooting 2 for 13. And we're looking at this shot chart. A lot of these shots are kind of from the standard spots he's shooting and where we're used to him shooting from, but they're just are not falling. And how does this play into the resiliency and the composure of Oklahoma City? Well, let's take a look at the rest of his team's first half stats, right? And I just want to point out that not only SGA, but not really any of the Thunder's stars were cooking early. We see Jalen Williams is shooting 2 for 8. Yes, he has 4 steals, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He's really putting work in around the rest of the court, but he's not the guy that's driving the force on the offense, getting the ball in the basket. Neither is Chet Holmgren. We see a guy who has 1 field goal and only 2 rebounds in the first half for Chet, but he's going to pick it up later, as we're going to see. The real reason we were afloat in the first half, we're looking at Isaiah Hartenstein almost single-handedly getting the offensive load. He's got 4 rebounds and 10 points. He's hitting that touch floater. He got Gobert into foul trouble early. Gobert had 2 fouls in under 2 minutes in the game, had to come out, and that really was able to play into the rhythm of Gobert and their paint defense, right? This touch floater from Hart, who also would get into foul trouble later, was what kept us close along with our defense in the first half. If you look at the stats, we saw 8 first half steals, half of those courtesy of Jalen Williams. And being able to play in transition and get to the line were the two things that kept Oklahoma City in this game in the first half. We're going to keep moving through this game into the second half where we're going to see a whole flipped switch, right? We just talked about Chet, Shai, and Dub really not playing up to their standard in the first half, especially scoring wise. However, in the second half, we saw the other teammates of OKC, the supporting cast, able to keep that composure to keep the game close. And these guys right here, excuse me, right here, are the ones who took it over coming into the second half. Let's take a look at some of the work that these guys did, right? This is the third quarter specifically. And this is where the Thunder just flipped that switch, turned that tide, and they really made that run, that clutch run, talking to set the tone in the first game of the Western Conference Finals. This is what championship teams are made of. And this is going into the playoffs, in my opinion, the only reason people were picking against the Thunder. They said they didn't have the playoff experience to come back if they put their back against the wall. We are watching this team gain that in real time. And it is a blessing because look at these stats coming out of this half. We see in 9 minutes, Jalen Williams goes 4 for 7. He chips in 3 boards as well and gets another steal to the tune of a +8. We see Chet Holmgren. He's going to get his bucket, and then he's also going to start rebound the ball a little bit better. He's going to get 2, and he's going to have a plus minus a 10, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the main story right here. He shot 2 for 8 in the first quarter, 0 for 5 in the second. He comes out of halftime, and he shoots 5 for 8, knocks down another pair of free throws, grabs 4 boards and assists 3 dimes. The flip switch to come out of halftime where you are struggling mightily. We're talking 2 for 13, mightily struggling, and to just really turn that tide up and really put the pressure on the Minnesota Timberwolves and have a quarter like this where it's a complete where they really had the confidence going in that they could shut us down, and they had no answers for us this quarter. They had no answers for Shea this quarter. And to see him just drop a quick 12 points in that quarter to really get back on track, huge for the momentum of the series. Kendrick Williams also played a big role in the third quarter. He also got a pair of buckets. But this third quarter changed the tides for this team, undoubtedly. Now we're going to take a look at the bench notes for this game, right? Because we saw the Thunder just continue to pull away till the end. But this was not without the help of the bench. The starters struggled early, and Mark Daigneault turned to a couple of guys off of the bench that really helped keep the team in it until we could just get to the top of our game and just cruise from there. We're looking at some of these notes, right? 96 minutes combined for the bench. Cason Wallace played 33 minutes. He played more than Lou Dort did last night. And for speaking on Mark Daigneault specifically, I just want to say that is great coaching to be so flexible and willing that when Cason's having these minutes, he's going to see the floor. And when he's being productive, he's going to see the floor. And we saw that early and we saw that often. Cason Wallace chipped in 7 assists last night. And a guy who's not normally a playmaker, I just want to commend him for stepping up into a role. And then another guy for stepping up into a role that we're going to get to in 1 second. But the next thing I want to note is that the bench shot 8 for 11 from 3 point land. The team only shot 11 for 21 on the day. So the starters shot 3 for 10, and the bench was clipping. 8 for 11 is in the 70%. And for the majority of our three balls to come from those guys, very big for the program. And the last thing I want to point out, 5 players off of the bench logged at least 3 rebounds. And well, like Cason Wallace with the assist, playing a role he doesn't normally play, just helping a team win by whatever mean possible. Which again just goes into the message of just the composure of this team, the playoff experience getting better and better and better. We had Isaiah Joe come off the bench and grab 8 rebounds. Isaiah Joe, the 3 point marksman, the guard, he's a scrawny frame, dude, in the paint, hustling everything he has for this team to chip in any way possible. This team is impressing me so much with their grit and grind this playoffs. And this just goes back to what Mark Daigneault says, right? We see to play as poorly as we did offensively in the first half and only be down 4 was a major victory for us at halftime. It took us a second to calibrate the opponent, but our defense allowed us the margin to do that. And he's completely correct. It was a 48 to 44 game at halftime, and we made a run towards the end of the half to get it there. But that doesn't happen. Like, we're not even in a position to do that if the defense isn't consistent, even whenever we're struggling offensively. That is a mental fortitude type of thing. And that is something that this team is showing time and time and time again that they are possessing. And it is vital to have that to get into the finals, right? The final score of this game ended up 114 to 88. This team ran away with this game behind the backs of now MVP official Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a great second half from J Dub. Chet Holmgren really turned it around. Let's take a look at his final stats from this game. He ended up finishing this game with this is the third quarter stats, but Chet Holmgren ended up finishing 5 for 6 in the second half. He had a great finish to the thing. I'm sorry, I don't have the image pulled up. But when we look at this team for the Thunder, they have what it takes mentally and obviously on the court. They are such a flexible, deep team. But the most important part in my eyes is that any player can step into any role on any given night. We had guys picking up the scoring while Shai was lacking. We had Cason Wallace picking up the playmaking whenever he had to get different guys open because not a lot of the same guys are hitting shots. We have Isaiah Joe getting in there for rebounds because we need that grit and grind against a Nas Reed and Rudy Gobert team that's going to have size, right? And Hart was in foul trouble. So he had to step in there additionally to help with that. And just the grind of this team and the willpower is shown through our leader, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, talking about how he rebounded from his struggles. Shai says, nothing really changed in my mindset. I just tried to continue to be aggressive, continue to trust my work, and it worked out for me in the second half. And then he said, additionally, our readiness as a group has been special, and we're going to need it further we go. And I personally could not agree more with the sentiment of what Shai has to say. We're going to need this grind, this mental fortitude, that championship spirit that people always want to bring up, that intangible it factor. This team, though they don't have any championship experience players besides Caruso on the team, they have that moxie, that just championship swagger to them that I feel like is going to get them to that final level. And once again, we saw that against a battle tested championship already bestowed team like the Nuggets. In Game 7, we came out and we were down a little bit early, and we just riled through them. We just ran through them at the end of the game, and that is something that takes mental fortitude. The Thunder have had a little bit of habit of these playoffs, a little bit of a slow start, even against the Grizzlies. They had a habit of getting behind a little bit, but it has not mattered to any degree. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's slight production drop has not mattered to any degree because this team is so deep, so well rounded, and trusting each other so much chemistry wise that I believe you can just throw that championship experience out the window and replace it with the grit and grind and mental toughness that this team has, and it's going to bring us through. This has been Gabriel Ebersole reporting for Thunder Digest, fresh off of Game 1. I'm hyped for Game 2 coming tomorrow. But for in the meantime, we're going to have to see Knicks Pacers series play out. This has been Gabriel Ebersole with Thunder Digest. I'll catch you guys in the next one.